Shalom to the elect of Israel, to the hopeful elect of Israel, you Hebrew Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, and Haitians. Got to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah. The Most High, the Heavenly Father, his Hebrew name is Yahweh. Not Yahweh, not Jehovah, not God, not Elohim, not Most High, not Lord, not Yah, not Jah, not Ahaya, not Allah. It's Yahweh. And his only begotten Son name in the Hebrew is Yahweh Shah. Not Yahshua, not Yeshua, not Jesus Christos, not Jesus Christ, not Serapis Christos, not Yeshaya, not Yehoshua. It's Yahweh Shah. So got to give all praises and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shah, Bahashem Rekah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the bishop and elders of Great Millstone who teach well, the apostles and elders of all of Israel, whether can accept it or not. In the sincere salutation to all that are pushing this truth and believing this truth throughout the four ends of the earth, the entire world, waking up the hopeful elect. And shalom to the Akwath who are listening and learning, if you sisters who are listening and learning. I'm Isaiah from Jim Orlando Camp coming at you on the lesson of truth, facts, faith, and edification. Under the date of edification, Lord, what is be able to find? So I just simply titled this lesson, oh boy, here we go. Motb is on the way. Because things are really moving fast with prophecy. And the apostles been saying this for years, that the monetary system of North America, Babylon the Great, has to crash. And they're going to bring in a new currency. Well, as they crash in the dollar, for those that's in the know, there's a transition of a digital currency. So, as I always be watching these different economists like Peter Schiff and others, this is what they're talking about. Like this is a real hot topic, man, because this is a transferring of currency. So I'm gonna play this clip. I got 3 clips I'm gonna play, and I got 3 others I'm just gonna show you the title, man. So let me turn this volume down. But this is where we at, man. Prophecy is speeding up, man. So for all you that's talking about ain't nothing happening, hey, it's happening. So check this out. Yeah, I'm sure it's gonna be some infomercials. I saw these titles and I watched a little bit of them, but just the titles, because we know this got to happen. And they tell you in James 5, and I only got a couple precepts I'm going to read. And tell you in James 5 that gold and silver is cankered, man. Okay, so if that gold and silver is cankered, it shows you that whatever they're trying to do, it ain't gonna work, man. The Lord say they shall not perform that enterprise. But it got to go somewhere. The currency got to go somewhere. When we read Revelations 13 and 16, it say he calls all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark, right? So it got to play out. But how do we get to that? The monetary system got to crash. So check this out.
In case you missed it amid the war news, the Wall Street Journal reported that Saudi Arabia is edging closer to accepting the yuan as payment for oil shipments to China. This is one more cost, and a potentially significant one, of the Biden administration's bungled handling of a strategically important ally. Details of the potential new Saudi-Chinese
And
oil
as we
trading
always say, Saudi Arabia is America's #1 ally, their #1 cash cow, man. And the Lord got them separated from Babylon the Great. It's in the scriptures, man. Isaiah 13 and 19. It said the Arabians shall neither pinch tit there. Okay? So before Babylon the Great be destroyed, the Arabians going to separate, man. This is how they separating.
arrangements remain vague. The two sides have talked for years about pricing some oil sales in yuan, and it may not happen. Some 80% of global oil sales are priced in US dollars. The yuan is not freely convertible as a reserve currency must be, and Saudi Arabia's currency, the rial, is pegged to the dollar. Yet the two sides are said to be keen, and news of renewed discussions sends an alarming signal. Saudi Arabia committed in 1974 to conduct its oil trade only in dollars, in exchange for security guarantees from Washington. The Biden administration has undermined that relationship at every turn, and by all accounts, the Saudis are fed up. One of the administration's first foreign policy actions was to end U.S. support for the Saudi war against the iron-backed Houthis in Yemen. The White House then postponed the scheduled arms sale to Riyadh, a security slap in the face that wasn't reversed until late last year. The Houthis have returned Mr. Biden's gift by sending drones and missiles to attack the oil fields and cities of Saudi Arabia and its ally, the United Arab Emirates. Meanwhile, the Saudis watch, aghast, as President Biden chases a new nuclear deal that will give Iran the resources to finance proxy wars against Saudi Arabia, until Tehran gets its own nuclear bomb. The Saudis are recalculating their interests now that they fear they can't rely on the U.S. amid the Biden administration's hostility and the horrifying Afghanistan withdrawal. The Crown Prince has refused Mr. Biden's entreaties to pump more oil, and he is reported even to have refused to take the president's phone call. Beijing is happy to step into the breach, and it could benefit if it can coax Riyadh into a yuan for oil arrangement. Doing so would help Beijing start building the scaffolding for a global yuan, including greater dispersion of the currency around the world. This
Really? Free testing.
This in turn could open the door for China to offer the yuan as a trading currency to U.S. adversaries, such as Russia and Iran. U.S. economic sanctions would be that much less effective. There's a lot of ruin in a reserve currency, and the greenback's global preeminence endures for now. But Washington should push back on any budding challenges, especially from strategic rivals. This is an urgent job for
Shalom to all the Acumen, I walk on the comment board. Shalom to all for tuning in. Yahba Shema Washab, Bahashem Rakak Kodash Brakathum. To all for tuning in. And you're going to see me doing a lot of lessons on this, man. This is like, I think, my third and fourth. And I had dropped off from doing these lessons, dealing with this monetary system. But I'm back on it, man. Because this is the hot topic, man. Because the Motb had to come in, and it's through conditioning and gradualism, man. There are steps leading to the Motb. And these countries is separate. You see the title? How Saudi Arabia and China are collapsing the U.S. economy, the end of the petrodollar and de-dollarization. I got other clips. I'm going to show you how Iran, they mentioned Iran in here, in this video. Listen, it's happening, man. It's happening. Because this, you waiting on the Motb to be made mandatory. Famine and pest, Jacob's trouble, World War III, man.
Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, assuming she can pull herself away from campaigning for global taxes and climate regulation. The Saudi bungle highlights the failure of Mr. Biden's brand of righteous liberal internationalism. In this new era of great power competition, the U.S. can't afford to alienate allies that can help deter authoritarian aggressors bent on harming U.S. interests and values. The U.S. is paying the price in the Ukraine crisis for having lost the Saudis. Petrodollars are not a currency. They are simply U.S. dollars exchanged for crude oil exports. The term gained economic and political prominence in the mid-19th.
The petrodollar is not a currency. No, it's a Ponzi scheme. And they got these economic hitmen, which you can go on YouTube. It's a little like, I think, 3-4 minute video of the economic hitmen, man. They created the fiat currency as a Ponzi scheme to keep all the nations in debt and all the people, man. How is each and every one of us is on the debt clock owing Babylon the Great $60,000? How is that possible?
1970s, amidst growing interdependence between the United States and crude oil exporters. In August 1971, U.S. President Nixon announced the end of the convertibility of the U.S. dollar to gold. The rest of the world's dependence on the U.S. dollar began to decline. The United States then sought to increase the demand for dollars by other means. The de-dollarization trend is not a new phenomenon. In the 1990s, in response to U.S. sanctions, Venezuela tried to break out of the status quo by switching from U.S. dollars to Chinese yuan for oil payments. Rapid globalization also poses a threat to the greenback, as many countries with bilateral trade relations would like to be able to use their own currencies for trade. However, the great financial crisis of 2008 put an end to any desire against the greenback, as investors sought the security offered by the current reserve currency. But today, the rise of China as a major world power, the exclusion of Russia from the SWIFT system, and the implicit disagreement between the US and Saudi Arabia may well accelerate the trend towards de-dollarization. Over the decades, the Saudi kingdom has been one of the United States' most important allies in the Middle East, largely through the oil for dollars agreement. Economically, Saudi Arabia has been the largest supplier of crude oil to the United States. Geopolitically, the kingdom has been a U.S. proxy in the Middle East to counter its great rival, Iran. Over the years, this relationship began to deteriorate. The United States has gradually reduced its dependence on oil imports by building up its own strategic reserves. In the 1990s, the United States imported about 2 million barrels per day of Saudi crude. This figure fell to only 500,000 barrels per day by 2021. Politically, Saudi Arabia is clearly not happy with Biden's Middle East policy. Biden's decision to unilaterally withdraw his support for Saudi Arabia in the Yemen war has alienated the kingdom from the U.S. administration. Biden's stated intention to salvage the nuclear deal with Iran has probably sealed any hope for improved relations. Since Russia launched its assault on Ukraine in February, Saudi Arabia has refused to pay attention to Biden's calls to extend crude supply quotas to limit rising oil prices. But this indifference to Western calls has an underlying reason that goes beyond the dispute with the United States. It is the growing cooperation between China and Saudi Arabia, which is not limited to the energy sector. Under the umbrella of its Belt and Road Initiative, China has expanded its potential presence in the kingdom through bilateral cooperation in infrastructure, trade, and investment. According to the American Enterprise Institute, cumulative Chinese investment in the Saudi economy reached $43 billion in 2021. China imported an estimated 542 million tons of crude oil in 2020, accounting for 25% of the kingdom's global oil exports. According to some sources, the kingdom's sovereign wealth fund, PIF, may soon start investing in Chinese companies. Saudi Aramco is reportedly close to entering into a partnership with a Chinese petrochemical consortium. All these factors seem to indicate that Saudi Arabia is increasingly turning to China. The de-dollarization of trade and investment would obviously facilitate their bilateral relations. It is worth noting that the United Arab Emirates are well aligned with the Saudis. Their cooperation with China is also growing strongly, and they are obviously ready to cut their production whenever OPEC Plus decides to do so. It is also interesting to note that Egypt, another ally of Saudi Arabia, has just launched its first yuan-denominated bond. Like the Gulf countries, economies such as Russia and Iran have also moved closer to Asia. Russia, for example, is turning to the CIPS system, a transaction system that clears international settlements and trades in renminbi, to be able to export its oil to Asia under Western sanctions. China and India now account for 40% of Russian oil exports. In India, Russian crude accounts for about 17% of imports, up from less than 1% before the invasion. Even Iran has begun exporting crude to China under U.S. sanctions, without using the U.S. dollar for payments. Some economists believe that this trend is not sustainable, drawing parallels with Venezuela's failed attempt at de-dollarization in the 1990s. But the context is very different this time. First, Asia is much less dollarized than Latin America. Also, Asian economies are much larger in size and impact on monetary policy. Even a step towards semi-dollarization could diminish the influence of the United States and undermine the awesome mechanics of the petrodollar, with consequences beyond the energy exporting countries. If the dollar loses its importance in trade, many central bank governors may be prompted to rethink the logic of accumulating reserves, as well as the wisdom of allocating part of their central bank's balance sheet to U.S. Treasury bonds. The U.S. government is obviously aware of these risks and is concerned about the defiance of the OPEC Plus alliance. A U.S. Senate committee has been working on a bill called No Oil Producing or Exporting Cartels, NOPC, to amend U.S. antitrust law. Such a bill would give the Attorney General the power to expose OPEC Plus countries to prosecution for possible collusion. The proposal has so far failed. Saudi Arabia has already warned in 2019 that such a bill, if passed, would prompt it to trade its oil in different currencies. Sanctions on Russia and China's growing influence in Eurasia are setting the stage for a very gradual move away from the petrodollar, NOPEC or not. The end of the petrodollar would imply a very different dynamic than the one we know today. Commodity exporting nations would be able to free themselves from the dollar and fix their currencies against a basket of commodities. Importing countries would have to buy these currencies to pay for their energy or agricultural imports. The currencies of commodity exporting regions would appreciate accordingly. especially since years of underinvestment have created significant supply deficits in some commodities. We may be at the dawn of a new era, a multipolar world where bilateral trade agreements will replace the old world order centered around the petrodollar. A paradigm shift that could penalize first and foremost those regions that are most dependent on raw material imports, namely Europe and Japan. Indeed, these two regions will probably remain cut off from Russia and will not benefit from any currency recycling to finance their respective debts and deficits. On the other hand, bilateral agreements such as Russia-India or China-Saudi Arabia could strengthen the economic and geopolitical power of these countries located in the East. For its part, America could be less affected than other developed countries. Firstly, because its economy is essentially domestic, but also because it can become self-sufficient in many raw materials. The decline of the petrodollar would still push up inflation.
All right, so let me get this next one. They also say Russia's top banks have just sold off this entire U.S. asset to collapse the U.S. economy.
The result of this may not be the toppling of Russia and its attempts to reform the Soviet Union, but it may end up being the toppling of America. I mean, Russia was this one great superpower, and then there was the United States. Well, Russia collapsed, but the United States remained as the sole remaining superpower. But our economy, our industrial base continued to disintegrate, and we may now be on the cusp of the collapse of our empire. And it might be ironic that the nation that ends up pushing us over that precipice is what remains of our former adversary in the Soviet Union, Russia. The Fed is going to blame a lot of the new inflation on Russia. It doesn't have to blame it on COVID anymore. It can blame it on Russia. And it's going to be an excuse to allow rising inflation. Just like they claimed it was transitory because of the supply chain bottlenecks, well, now they can pull that transitory card out again, only this time it's because of Russia. The supply chain problems are now because of Russia and the Ukraine. It's got nothing to do with the Fed. It's got nothing to do with monetary policy. In fact, the Fed needs a more expansionary monetary policy to counteract the damage being done to the economy from what's going on with these global supply chains. Like, we need more money, which is exactly what they did, when the oil price went up in the 1970s.
Everything about energy is changing. New discoveries, new technologies, new requirements for compliance. These changes
that resulted in the Fed printing more money, creating more inflation, because the Fed wanted to offset the contractionary effects of rising oil prices on the economy. And the Fed wanted to make sure that consumers had more money to buy more expensive oil. And of course, that's what was fueling the process. And the same thing is going to happen again, which is why I do believe that the only viable path for the US government to take, and maybe even before the next election, is going to be price controls. It is going to be rationing. I mean, we did that in World War II. We had rationing. Things were in short supply. We had price controls in the 1970s. That may be where we're headed, because I don't see the Fed doing what Paul Volcker did in the 1980s, not in the vulnerable position that the U.S. economy is now in. And that is why it's different this time, because when inflation was low, when the Fed could point to a CPI that was below 2%, well, at that time, the Fed could justify the cheap money. the Fed could actually say, look, the economy is weak, but also inflation is too low. And they came up with this cockamamie explanation of why too low inflation is bad. So we can kill two birds with one stone with this monetary policy. We can stimulate a weak economy, but we can also get more inflation, which is what we need anyway. We were not hitting our target. We didn't have 2% inflation, which supposedly is the holy grail when it comes to inflation. And we weren't quite there yet. And so we're going to pursue these policies. But when you've got inflation well above 7%, and with what we're seeing now, there's no way inflation is going to be under 10%, even the way the government measures it in 2022. So when you've got 10% inflation officially, unofficially, maybe double that, maybe 20%, if that's how much prices are going up, there is no way the Fed could claim that we need more inflation. And it cannot justify its excessively loose monetary policy on low inflation. But for now, what's going on in Russia is actually working to help somewhat and offset the situation, because it is driving some safe haven flows into the US dollar. And so that is keeping a lid somewhat on prices that are surging all around the world. But that benefit is not being enjoyed in Europe. I mean, prices are rising in the US despite a strong dollar. That means they're rising even more in Europe as the euro is weakening against the dollar, and other countries that are seeing their currency weakening. Inflation is breaking out all over the world. So it's impossible for central banks around the world to justify a continuation of this monetary madness. They can't keep shooting monetary heroin into economies that are already overdosing from all the monetary heroin that they've already ingested. So we are at the end of our rope. Yes, maybe we can have a small bounce as investors still haven't come to terms with the degree to which the situation has changed, given how much inflation we have, given the enormity of the Fed's balance sheet, given that interest rates are already at zero. If we are going into a recession right now, even if the catalyst for the recession is what's happening in Russia, what is the Fed going to do about it? They have no room to cut rates, even if they get the first rate hike in March. But then they have to turn around a couple months later and go back to zero, because we're now clearly in a recession as opposed to just headed for one. How much stimulus is the Fed going to deliver when all you can cut rates is 25 basis points? Is it really going to make a difference to a weak economy if you take rates from 25 basis points to zero? Especially if inflation continues to get worse. But the minute the Fed does that, the dollar's going to tank. I mean, if the Fed has to go back to zero, I don't see how the dollar could survive that if the dollar hadn't already started to get killed based on the fact that the market sensed this was happening. What's going on with the safe haven flows to the dollar, that's going to blow over, just like any money that is flowing into these tech stocks and Bitcoin, because in this dynamic, these companies are not going to survive. I mean, right now, people are thinking, hey, the companies that don't have any earnings and don't pay any dividends, they're not affected as much by what's going on in Russia, right? We don't have to worry about the impact on their profits because they don't have any profits. They don't have assets in Russia that they're going to have to write down. Sovereign wealth funds aren't being pressured into dumping their shares at fire sale prices because of their connections to Russia. So people are piling into these stocks. But what investors are missing is the lack of viability of these companies, because they're not going to be able to come back to the capital markets to offset their burn. Companies in this space that are losing money are going to lose even more money because of what's happening in the global economy and Russia than they were losing before. And their revenue growth is not going to be there. So the dynamics are no longer there. And how are these companies going to survive if they can't sell new stock at inflated prices? How are they going to keep paying their employees when their employees don't want to work for stock options because the stocks are tanking? The dynamics are going to change, and the fortunes of these companies are going to change, and especially the people who are betting on them. This is a dead cat bounce in that sector. It is a dead cat bounce in Bitcoin, and anybody who missed the initial decline in the Cathie Wood type stocks or the crypto, this is your opportunity to get out of jail. Yeah, you're not going to sell at the top. We're nowhere near the top, but we're far enough off the bottom that you can sell and take comfort in the fact that you didn't sell the low. Although even the people who sold the low prior to this rally in a month, maybe less, will be glad they got out because we'll be hitting new lows. But I want to go over some of the economic data that just came out in the last couple of days that continues to validate the stagflationary argument that I am making. And again, which is why this time will be different. When you have a weak economy and inflation, that's much different than having a weak economy and no inflation, because the Fed has lots of options when there's no inflation. It has no options when there's high inflation. And when the world comes to terms with that predicament, the way they allocate capital, the way they invest money will be very different than the way they did it in prior cycles. The money is going to plow into the mining sector, agriculture, metals. It's going to go into value. It's going to go into dividends. Those trends that were in place prior to Russia are going to be back in place after Russia. But again, Russia's going to be here for a long time. The Biden administration needs Russia. This is the excuse they need. They need to take these problems into the election. They need to have a scapegoat. COVID wasn't going to be it. If you look at the approval ratings for the Biden administration, they were in the tank. They needed some kind of tail to wag the dog, and this might be it, right? This could be the new gift that keeps on giving, not only for the central bankers, but for the Biden administration to blame any problems in the U.S. economy on what's happening in Russia.
Salakia. Hold on, I got one more. And this is from Iran.
Welcome to Channel Deep in Moments. Today's topic: petrodollar is dying. Iran is officially using CNY to settle its oil. CNY has become the best option for de-dollarization. Recently, the U.S. has imposed harsher economic sanctions on Iran in an attempt to put Iran in its place by economic means. As a result, Iran is not only unmoved, but under the heavy pressure of the United States, it has established deeper relations with other countries. Some time ago, several EU countries invited Iranian President Hassan Rouhani to visit and promised to use the euro directly in oil transactions with Iran, thus bypassing the U.S. sanctions. China and some countries have already started using CNY to settle crude oil transactions, and the volume has been strong with record highs. Public sources indicate that Chinese buyers purchased Iranian oil last year, with some volumes settled in CNY. Now, Iranian authorities have officially replaced the former foreign exchange position of the US dollar with CNY and listed it as one of the country's top 3 foreign currencies. In a statement, Iran said the move was made to expand the use of CNY. Considering again the increased pricing function of CNY crude oil futures in Asian and European markets and the context of expanded trade activities between China and Iran could also provide an alternative oil currency option for traders in oil-producing countries, including Iran.
My friend used to pay $163 for car insurance. Now look at how much he pays. $28. Most insurance companies are ripping us off. They don't want us to know that there's an easier way to get cheaper insurance. All you have to do is go here and get a quote in under 2 minutes. And if you've overpaid in the past, they'll even refund your money. You just put in your information and then it compares all the different insurance companies to make sure that you get the best rate. Plus, it includes state discounts, which other insurance companies don't do. And it's all to help you get the best rate. So this is how the bill went to $28 a month for car insurance. It makes no sense. Now he's not paying $163 for car insurance. I'll go ahead and put a link below so you can check it out for yourself.
Are you doing your holiday shopping online this year? I'm going to show you one trick that's going to save you a lot of money. In fact, I was able to save $350 this month shopping online using the exact same trick I'm about to show you.
Watch this. I can show you how to get the sweetest deals online when you shop from major retailers like Amazon and Target. You can drop prices automatically. I can show you how, but I can't do it for you. People are saving real money doing this.
Salak, man,
160
Salak.
million in the last year.
This
Damn
suggests that
infomercial,
CNY
man.
has begun to
Salak.
play the role of an oil currency instead of the dollar. According to the latest forecast of Saxo Bank, Asia should transition a large amount of oil trade to CNY. Currently, oil-producing countries, including Iran, Angola, Indonesia and Venezuela, are very happy to settle their transactions in CNY. A Chinese oil giant has already signed the first agreement to settle Iranian crude oil imports with CNY purchases, and plans to sign more such contracts in the future, further expanding the scope of settlement of CNY crude oil futures. The analysis further said that China may also begin a pilot program to settle its crude oil imports in CNY on a large scale. This would mean that the US dollar would not be charged a toll, thus facilitating investors who have a need to bypass the petrodollar and hedge against volatility in the price of dollar-priced crude oil futures. Combined with the fact that Europe, Japan and Saudi Arabia, which hold the most overseas dollars, are also embarking on de-dollarization, the oil-dollar-US debt system may be on its way out. This will mean that more international investors will enter the Shanghai crude oil futures market in the future, supporting China's real economy and adding a new oil currency option for traders in other oil-producing countries. Analysts say that Chinese energy buyers may next adopt CNY to trade oil on a larger scale, with the Chinese version of CNY crude oil futures breaking the pattern of dollar-based pricing in the oil sector, while a number of oil countries, including the UAE, Japan and India, have previously failed to make a breakthrough in their challenge to the petrodollar, and China has done what others have failed to do. Shipping activity suggests that some Chinese refineries have been buying oil from the international market at a lower discount in recent months, and purchases have continued to rise since April. Chinese energy buyers are buying about 58,000 barrels of crude oil and petroleum products from some countries above the average for the same period in 2021. The latest data released by China's General Administration of Customs showed that China imported 370 million tons of crude oil in the first 9 months of the year, 4.3% lower than the same period last year and the first annual decline in this period since 2014, confirming a report released by the China Petroleum and Chemical Industry Federation that concluded that China's external dependence on crude oil achieved its first downward trend in 20 years. According to data published by energy analysis firm OilX, China appears to have stockpiled a large amount of strategic oil reserves, much more than is known. China is the world's second largest consumer and largest importer of crude oil, accounting for about 44% of the growth in world oil demand. Strategic oil reserves are indispensable economic blood. All oil importing countries need not only.
So yeah, I just want to show some points. Now I'm gonna get these other couple of. I want to show you these other titles. Oh, let me get rid of this. So here's some other titles that I just saw. This is one. It's a China backstabs US by dumping 1.4 trillion US dollars to crash the US economy. That's from Peter Schiff. Let me get this one. Because this is all leading to the MOTB, man. So here's another one. Let me see. Yeah, here's another one. China and Saudi Arabia's economic strategy is crushing the U.S. economy. No petrodollar, OPEC, BRICS. Just want to show these titles. I just got these two precepts I'm going to read. Actually, the one. So here's the last one. Let me see. This is the one I had showed the other day. This one I had in the lesson the other day. China is threatening to dump 1 trillion US dollars to crash the US economy. And it's all because of this fiat currency, this Ponzi scheme. It's all because of this. This fiat currency, this Ponzi scheme. So I just want to read this one precept in James. So we know, because Peter Schiff always talking about going back to gold. It really had me I mean, Shalaki, these devils, this fiat currency, man, is destroying these nations. So everybody's trying to get from around the dollar, just like this guy, what's his name, Gaddafi, right? When he tried to do another currency to get around the petrodollar, suddenly he was put to death because either you're going to get down with Babylon the Great and their monetary system, or you're going to be destroyed. So this is James 5:1. Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heat treasure together for the last days. So the Lord is saying that gold and silver is cankered. It said the gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, because it said, and it shall eat your flesh as with fire. Ye have heat treasure together for the last days. So, because all they do is take, and what's that? Habakkuk 2:5, right? You got Micah 2. What's that? Is that Micah 2? Micah 2:2, it reads, and they covet fields and take them by violence and houses, and take them away, so they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for this time is evil. So it say, in that day shall one take up a parable against you and lament with a doleful lamentation and say, we be utterly spoiled. He have changed the portion of my people. How have he removed it from me? Turning away, he have divided our fields. And this happened to Israel, but also happened to the other heathen nations, man. Because these devils got these garrisons, right? These military bases, they got garrisons, over 800 garrisons, man, in other countries throughout the earth, man. Okay, which of course outside of not in Russia. That's why they're trying to establish one in Ukraine, man. So these devils, if their gold and silver is corrupted and cankered, we know that it's just a point of time. This fiat currency got to go, man. And these nations is trying to separate themselves from Babylon the Great because of the petrodollar, man. Because these nations in debt because of this devil, man. It's Obadiah 1:7. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in them. So, yeah, as the brother put up, because I bring you how Psalm 73:5. You see, they can do this because the earth was given to their hand. They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. Beautiful. Here's another beautiful precept from Pillars of Benjamin. Ecclesiastes 21:8. He have built his house with other men's money. It's like one that gathered himself. He that buildeth his house with other men's money is like one that gathered himself stones for the tomb of his burial. Right, man. Because that's what these devils have done. And that's why I tell you in Job 20:22, all hands of the wicked shall be upon him, man. Which the word wicked go into the laborers, man, which is Israel, but also the heathen nations, man. That's why I tell you in Isaiah 14, Isaiah 14 and verse, Isaiah 14 and verse 18, it reads, and all the kings of the nations, even all of them lie in glory, every one in his own house. It's talking about all the other nations just joined to these devils, man. Because in Daniel 2, it say, that they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, man. These nations are tired of these. Hey, even though the Lord is using uh the Russians, which are also Edomites, to be a guard to these nations, they touted, hey, Babylon the Great has been a bully, man. And I ain't brought this out in a minute. Babylon the Great has been a bully on the earth, man, for the longest. And these nations are tired of bullies, man. And bullies eventually get their ass whooped, man. Eventually. They tired of these bullies, man. That's what the Lord say. Let the weak say I'm strong. And like it said right here in Isaiah 14, it was verse 11. I think it's verse 10. It say, all they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? And that plays into the monetary system, man. Because now this petrodollar is weak, man. It's weak. The prophecy got to play out, man. While we watching things play out every day, this got to happen too. Revelation 13 and 16 had to happen too, man. And it starts somewhere. So over time, all this bullying that Esau Edom has been doing in the earth, man, now it's coming back. This is Obadiah 1 and 7. Again, it reads, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. You see? So here we are, man. Here we are, watching this devil, watching North America, Babylon the Great currency fall. And we know the elites control both sides, man. So this is all a game to condition the people's minds to get ready to conform to the MOTB, man. Everybody already conformed to the to this digital payment system. This is how the Lord is using these devils to bring about the MOTB, man. And now we got Biden talking about in December, right? That was it, December 13th. What do they call it? Biden bucks. Hold on, I got the article right here. This is from let's see. This is from Ultimate Doom. No, this is from Venture Capitalist. It say Ultimate Doom, December 13th, 2022, now called C-Day, Biden bucks, central bank digital currency, CBDC, executive order 14067. Okay? So what is this about? Hold on. Hold on. Let me get rid of all these. Let me pull up on the screen so you can see it. Let me get rid of these. Bear with me for a second. Let me see it. Let me pull it up real quick. Let's see if that's it. Ultimate Doom. Bear with me. Bear with me. I want to pull it up so you can see it. Bear with me. Let's see. Let's see. It won't even. Hold on. You know what? Hold on, bear with me, because it won't even pull up. Hold on. Ultimate Doom, December 13, 2022. Not called C-Day, digital currency. Hold on, man. Bear with me. Let me put in executive. Let me put this in. Because on my phone, it's typed in all caps. That's maybe why it didn't pop up. Let me put in executive order. Let's put this in and see what happens. Okay, let me do this. Let me do this. Hold on. Let me type this in. Let's see what this gives me. Let's see what's this. I think that's it right here. Okay, right here. So I found it here. So let me pull it up. Select it. Let me pull this up. Oh, let me get this off the screen. So right here, it say Ultimate Doom, December 13th, 2022, not called C-Day, Biden Bucks, Central Bank Digital Currency, CBDC, Executive Order 14067. So we'll see. We'll see. But it's all leading to the MOTB, man. If this don't happen in December on December 13th, hey, we know it's coming, man. And they have to crash. The Apostle been saying this for years, man. They gotta crash the dollar, this old currency, to bring in the new one, man. They got to. So yeah, I was to make some points on that, dealing with this, man. Because this is where we at, man. The monetary system, and this is all the elites control both sides of everything, man. So it's all another Ponzi scheme, conditioning through gradualism, man, to set Jake up to take the MOTB. And we know niggas like Charleston White is gonna take it, man. When you get money, you gonna take it. You got money in the bank, you getting money, because Esau got everybody chasing the bag, you're gonna take it, man. It's all a conditioning, but it's happening though. And all those people, in the lesson I did, the other lesson I did about a week or two ago, when your country, your government changes their monetary system, what happened to the people? You got to work, right? How you gonna get your money? That means you got to change with the system, or you ain't gonna get your money. Or now you stressing about how you gonna pay your bills because you don't wanna conform to the system, right? Just like a lot of people when they put out the Jabberwocky, man, the Yabberwocky. What happened? If you a lot of jobs say if you didn't take it, you had to lose your job. Esau is conditioning the people's minds, man, to accept this, man. which most people going to accept it, man. So it's happening. It will happen. Don't think this is far away, man. This is up close. This is up close, real close, man. So Lord is edifying. Got to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushua, Bahashem Rekah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elder bishops and elders of great millstone who rule well, who teach well, who are the apostles and elders of all of Israel, ready concepted or not. In a sincere salutation to all the ark pushing this truth and believing this truth, throughout the four winds of the earth, the entire world, waking up the hopeful elect. And shalom to the Agwath who are listening and learning. You few sisters who are listening and learning. Lord is edifying. Till next time I say shalom. Wah, abah, abah, for tuning in. May Yahweh Shema shall continue to bless you in your houses. Stay prayed up. Hey, yeah, Jeremiah 51:7, man. See, these nations is pissed off with Esau, man. Even though the Russians are Edomites, the Turkey is Edomites, but they are pissed off with Babylonian Edomites because these Edomites over here has been deborn the world, man. See, these some different type of devils over here, man. But they all being controlled, the entire planet, all nations is being controlled by the elites, man. So then you got to ask yourself, what's really going on, man? Well, this is Yahweh Shema Shah controlling the minds of the people, man. This is a chess game, man. And the Lord is making strategic moves, man. Every day. Every day, man. This is how the Lord moving, man. Because these devils, the Lord got these devils in control of the monetary system, man. But this is just to condition your mind to conform to the new way of paying for everything, man. And this is, hey, the Lord say he came to, in Luke 12:51, he came to bring division, man. See, this is going to be the separation. You either going to conform because you need your money or you ain't, man. And most people going to conform to money, man. Because niggas is infatuated with money, man. They don't understand the Lord. Yeah, this devil, they say Jeremiah 51:7, Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunk, and the nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore, the nations are mad, man. So this is the Lord playing chess, man. But we know it's going to happen because it's prophecy. The last major prophecy is Jacob's trouble, the Motb, and World War III, man. And we see the Motb is coming because they making it seem like everybody is dumping the dollar. Well, what's going to happen? Because Edom's still in rulership of the earth, the elites, right? Didn't these devils said that everybody is just Goyim, right? Oh, I gotta hit that brother up too. The brother Dawada, because hold on, let me get this. Because he played this clip from this guy, and that's the same clip that Elder Ayathan had sent me. He did a video on it last year. I was trying to find it. It's in one of my lessons, but I couldn't find it. And that's a spirit because I was looking for it, and the brother Dawada had played it in a lesson that he did. Let me pull it up real quick, just to show you the guy. Let me show it to you. In this video right here. Now this is one of these small hat rabbis. I was looking because the brother put it in. I got to ask the brother to send it to me. This guy right here, I forgot his name, but the elder had sent it to me last year. He did a lesson on it, and I wound up doing a lesson on it. This guy said he called. Matter of fact, let me see if I can play it, man. He called all the other nations Goyim.
things, and then they go to the synagogue and they learn the real important things.
Hold on.
It pretty much explains itself.
You're coming right out on television, in the newspapers, on the radio, and you're telling the people exactly what you're going to do before you do it, and they're like they're brain dead. Well, we did a good job with the public school system. We got you to put all of your children in there. You notice that the Jew doesn't put his children in there. They go to the Hebrew Academy where we teach them the real things, and then they go to the synagogue and they learn the real important things. But we send your kids to the public school. We even have you tax yourself from your property so that you never own your property. And so if you don't make your property tax, we're going to take your property. You can bet on that. And we have you put your kid in a 12-year babysitting is about all it does, because you don't learn anything. And then by that time, the kids, they get to be teenagers, and then we give them the music. Not that we really want to call it music, because, oy vey, that's not music. But they listen to that, and then they want to do what they want to do, and so we sell them drugs, and we make a lot of money off your children. Your children from cradle to grave. All we do is make money off of them. Your cattle, your goyim, the human cattle.
That's what you see. He said that all the other nations is just cattle. Okay, goyim. That's what these small hats call all the other nations, man. And me and the head brother from the camp did a lesson on it a few years ago, and they took both our videos down because it was a guy going around asking them about having all the other nations as servants, and they were like, yeah, all the other nations is just goyim. Me and the brother did a video on it separately, and they took both our videos down because they say all other nations is just goyim, man. It show you, man, these devils, man. Yeah, so that's what it is, man. The elites want everybody tagged like cattle, man, like cows, man, because we just goyim, man. That's it. So you know, if they talking like that, it gotta happen. It gotta happen, man. It will happen. Yeah. So hey, again, the for tuning in. May you help out Shema, shall continue blessing your houses. Stay prayed up. The water for all your precepts. Shalom. Wa abba.